EVALink. So this is the campus, the Utah campus, and we now have a way to zoom to another campus. This is Flashline. So what it did is it centered us on their station. And we have some markers up here, and that is for planning an expedition. So if I'm sure everyone is aware, there's a crater here. It's about 10 kilometers wide. It's very massive. It's got lots of different formations. It seems to have a couple of layers, concentric layers, and there's an anomaly here. So let's plan for someone to go look at the anomaly. And I'm going to click on MDRS Planner, and that will highlight that. It also has this triangle, which is trying to show us where we'll be if we're following the plan. And the plan is for today, and it ended a couple hours ago. That's why we're stuck here. But I think one thing that I'd like to point out is I may have put down some of this plan in an area that can't be traversed. So it seems that actually the roads, the trails, I should say, probably follow this stream bed and don't go out here. And I don't know if that's because, but there are trails that kind of end here, and there's one that kind of ends here. So I don't know if this is impassable or if it's just not the best way. So I'm going to plot out going back the longer way. So let's do that. So I'm just going to quickly look at this. It's set for today at 1300 hours. So if I try to follow, there is a trail that we can see. If I try to follow that roughly back, it diverges from the path that I made around this point. So let's put a marker down, and I'll set it for today, and I'll stick with, we were at 1300 before. I'm going to start putting these at current times. So we're at 1500 right now. I'm just going to put this at 1600, so it's in the future. When I save that, we should benefit from this extrapolation. So what it'll do is it'll say, well, back here, we're here at 1300 and we're here at 1400. So I'm going to show you, if you're following this plan for your timing, this is where you should be right now. So you should almost be to your 1400 objective. And then I'll put down a couple more objectives. It's good to put if trails diverge, it's good to put down a flag so that people on the ground or mission control can say, oh, we can tell you diverged from the plan at an important point. I always have to, because we default to tomorrow, I always have to rewind it to today. And I'll put that one at 1700. Kind of bounces around each time we put down a flag. And I'll just put this one here. If you do accidentally put one down with the wrong date or the wrong time, you'll see that the lines won't be drawn. You know, it'll try to go to one of the points out of order. If you see that, you just click on it and you can delete it. I don't have a way to edit points. You just delete them and then put them down in the correct way. So it seems like this trail doesn't go into this waterway, but kind of goes on the high side. Put one here. In any case, I mean, that's interesting stuff. I guess I'll put another one here so we can kind of see this full circle. That one is 1900. Let's put one here for today at 20. And let's take them home. So let's just put one here, and then it'll be obvious where we're going. This is very late. We wouldn't really be out so late in the day, but I just needed to space them out. So that represents going out one route, coming back another route. Oops, I didn't mean to put down. So another thing I wanted to look at is this sort of anomaly on this side of the crater. So as you zoom in, this might be an interesting place to look more closely. I noticed that when you zoom in, you get this kind of alligator skin. I think I've seen this kind of pattern in places where water has dried out of a surface, and as the surface shrinks, then depending on the material and the rate of evaporation, you'll get these fractures, and they'll be at certain sizes. I don't know if that's happening here. It would only make sense if that kind of effect can happen at like 20 meters, because these are 10 or 20 meters across. It's also interesting to me that, and that could have happened substantially after the impact, it's interesting to me that this is off-center. And so if any of this was an effect of the impact, it seems like it could have been because there was a glancing blow east to west or west to east. So these are all interesting questions, and they may have already been answered, but I think it'd be fun to answer them. We can see our little test, our little target, objective target is slowly moving. It's easier to see it moving if you put times closer together. One thing that you can see when you have a plan like this is you can go back and you can see how fast you're expecting. I could also put a distance, but how fast you're expecting people to be traveling in order to stick with the plan. So it might be that we, as we zoom back and look at one of these points, it could be like, well, 3.7 is kind of on the high side of walking in terrain, and so maybe that's a little unrealistic. We need to adjust that. Anyway, fun stuff. And that is planning. We can also export the plan. And so now we'll have the GPX of the plan. And it loads in, when I click on it, it loads in a GPX viewer. And it just loads in the GPX viewer that I've installed. Mac. I don't think I'm sharing that. Okay. Anyway, I'll end it here.